Nee B Flat Earth. Welcome to another video. Flat Earth science using plain sailing trigonometry, and I have been interested in for a little while on cartography, the science and the map making. There's just far too many depictions of a azimuthal equidistant map that are actually out there that we can actually see with our own two eyes. And when we think about the circumnavigation, it's a question that comes up quite a lot that we have to defend, is simply a circle is not a globe. When explorers and sailors simply sail east to west until they arrive at their starting point, arrive back at their destination, it in no way indicates that the Earth is round. A globe, a circle, is not a globe. Now, when you're using a compass to navigate land or sea, the needle will always point towards the North Pole. So we can all determine east and west. Now, Polaris, the North Star, it also serves as a reliable beacon of true north from which east and west can be easily determined. So on the flat Earth, the azimuthal equidistant map, if one was to head due east or west via the compass or using Polaris, you would inevitably end up back at your original starting point. So bear in mind North Pole is at the centre of the Earth and the entire outer ring, Antarctica what we call it, is the south. So if one sails due east or west, they will inevitably end up back at the starting point. So Captain Cook, Magellan, explorers in your 1700s and your 1800s estimated that they had traversed more than 50,000 miles when trying to circumnavigate Antarctica. Now that is the outer ring, like we said, of the flat Earth. So James Cook, James Clark Ross, the British Challenger expedition, they clocked on around of 69,000 miles. So bear in mind, according to NASA's calculations, the globe is only supposed to be 25,000 miles in circumference. Again, noticeable inconsistencies. Now, using plain trigonometry, practical distance measurements taken from the Australian Handbook Almanac, the Shippers and Importers Directory. Now, this states that a straight line distance between Sydney, Australia and Nelson, New Zealand is 1,550 statuette miles. They're given a difference in longitude is 22 degrees, 2.14. Therefore, if 22 degrees, 2.14 out of 360 is 1,550 miles, well, the entirety world would measure 25,182 miles. This is not only larger than the ball Earth is said to be at the equator, but a whole 4,262 miles greater than it would be at Sydney southern latitude on a globe of said proportions. From near Cape Horn, Chile, to Port Phillip in Melbourne, Australia, the distance is 10,500 miles or 143 degrees of longitude away. Factoring in the remaining degrees to 360, obviously, makes for a total distance of 26,430 miles around this particular latitude. Now, work it out, that is over 1,500 miles wider than the Earth is supposed to be at the equator, and many more thousands of miles wider than it's supposed to be at such southern latitudes. Similar calculations made from the Cape of Good Hope, South Africa to Melbourne, Australia, at an average latitude of 35.5 degrees south, has given an approximate figure of over 25,000 miles, which is again equal to or greater than the Earth's supposed greatest circumference at the equator. Calculations from Sydney, Australia to Wellington, New Zealand, at an average of 37.5 degrees south, has given an approximate circumference of 25,500 miles, greater still. According to the ball Earth theory, the circumference of the Earth at 37.5 degrees southern latitude should only be 19,757 statuette miles, almost 6,000 miles less than such practical measurements. And if we stay on the equator, bear in mind it's spinning at 1,000 miles an hour. Centrifugal force would then literally push all the continents into the centre, therefore putting the continental drift theory, if you will, another joke. The questions regarding Antarctica and the ice wall that surrounds us will always be there, from expeditions from Andrea Barnes, Admiral Byrd, and countless other unnamed people that get arrested for trying most of the time. The fact is, we'll never be allowed to go, and we can rely on the evidence that's been left. And when we do that flat earth research, you can see a timeline of events that surrounding the Antarctica expeditions and the founding of NASA, from 1946 to 47, Operation High Jump. This was to get up and onto the ice shelf. From 1955 to 1956, Operation Deep Freeze. This was to explore the ice shelf. From 1957, Admiral Byrd then passes away. A year later, NASA is founded in 1958. 1959, the Antarctica Treaty is open for signatures. 1961, the Antarctica Treaty goes into force. And then from 1962, the USA and Russia begin launching high-altitude, lower megaton nuclear weapons into space under names such as Operation Dominic and Operation Fishbowl. And these are clearly superpowers that are testing that newly found firmament with nobody to stop them. The questions will always be there. And I suppose the definition of research is to research the research that others have researched. And I've noticed the Milky Way also looks like a flat earth disk. Get the globe and riff it up. Thank you very much indeed for watching this video. I'm Nee B, this is Flat Earth, and tap that subscribe if you're new. Please be lucky.